All right, everybody, and welcome back to another episode, or your first episode, second episode, hopefully not the last episode, of Getting Real with Reckless Russell. I'm Russell Clace III, owner of Reckless Chefing, Reckless Roadhouse, and now Reckless Brewing Company, all out here in Western Colorado. And this is the documentary, vlog, podcast, all which have you, on whatever media you might be watching us, where we pull back the curtain on what it's really like to be a small business owner, entrepreneur, the struggles and ups and downs, and a bit of behind the scenes on what we do, how we do it, why we do it, and everything it takes to be a restaurant owner. We're going to focus a lot specifically on our industry, but we're going to bring up concepts and topics that might relate to any small business owner, and us as consumers, how we treat small businesses and large businesses, and the way we think about things, and just anything you might think of when it's time to get real. We're going to talk on subjects that might not make you feel so comfortable, and some where everybody can relate to. But yeah, the whole basis is just me being able to talk about my experiences since starting my own company and my own business about 4 years ago, and all of our struggles and not so much struggles, and the ins and outs, and anything anybody might want to be able to hear. We will bring in some guests and maybe some celebrity guests and questions and any kind of topic that you folks might want to hear about. So again, this is Getting Real with Reckless Russell.
All right. I guess let's start this one.
Oh yeah, but while he's talking, a big thank you to Brandon, my guy behind the scenes, who is my producer and videographer, and who had half the idea to push me to start doing this. And you know, he's not a half bad bartender if you ever want to come down and see him in Fruta too.
All right. Well, I guess let's start this episode off from the beginning. What was it like for you opening up your first brick and mortar location, especially in a town like Quebec, as you said earlier? It's got less than 500 people.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I've been a chef in the industry going on 18 years now, 14 years before I started the company. So that was never something I really thought about, you know, and for all entrepreneurs and small business owners, you know, we can plan and we can plan and we can plan, put all of our numbers on paper, what it's going to look like when guests finally come in the door. But you never know. You know, your grand opening could be the busiest day you'll ever have. It could be a complete flop. And of course, that's like the first thing we all plan for, is what's going to happen the moment we open our doors, the moment we make that first sell, the first time a guest sits in one of our chairs, our first opportunities. So that's a perfect place to start. Why not? We opened our first brick and mortar here in Quebec, Colorado, which, as I mentioned before and Brandon mentioned, is in a town of a less than 500 live-in population. And that was a question I was actually asked a lot by my peers and fellow chef friends, people I went to college with, chefs I worked under. Russell, what are you doing? You're opening a restaurant in a town that nobody's ever heard of. And what are you thinking, man? Why aren't you opening in Chicago, Denver, Los Angeles, New York? You know, I had a lot of connections to big cities and places like that. Well, folks, one thing it takes to open a business usually is money. And one thing that's really expensive in big cities is real estate. And that's not gonna lie. Like, that was a major factor on why did we open in a small town. Well, one, I could afford it. What I was able to get here in Quebec, we have a beautiful facility out here. I'm very fortunate to have had this come across my plate. It was affordable for me to get into. And as I mentioned in our opening segment, as a 30-year-old with no prior ownership experience trying to open a restaurant on his own, people were not lending to me, especially not banks. So if I was to open this same concept, we have about 6,000 square feet out here in Quebec at the Reckless Roadhouse, our saloon and smokehouse. We have about 6,000 square feet out here. If I was to be able to get on a half an acre with 2 extra buildings in the back, one of which is my residence where I live, 30 steps right out the back door, I never get to get away. If I was to get a 6,000 square foot facility in Denver or Chicago or Los Angeles or New York or Aspen or all the cities that everybody thinks you should start business in, I mean, you're probably talking millions of dollars it would have taken me to be able to open something like that, let alone to get into a facility that was not exactly turnkey, but had already been established at a bar and had a lot of the things that I already needed to start the business. That's why one of the main reasons we started in a town such as Quebec. There were other things too. When I tell people the story, I'm like, it checked a lot of boxes, right? If I would be a bad entrepreneur, a bad business owner, if I went into a situation that was uncomfortable for me. Of course, it was all uncomfortable for me, starting it all out from the get-go, from the ground up, doing it all, taking my plans, visions, dreams, ideas from just a whiteboard, a brainstorming operation, pen and paper, to a fully operational brick and mortar. Of course, all of that was very daunting, scary, overwhelming, but I would have never been able to do that in a town or a city, in a major city, we'll call it, like Denver, where not only is my upfront capital going to be 4, 5, 6, maybe even 10 times larger than what I was able to afford out here, but the risk of competition, the market segment, coming in and starting in a small town, not only did it afford me the opportunity to start something from scratch that was affordable, but also it gave me a lot more control, if we want to be honest. So that checked one of those boxes that I needed checked too, was how much control could we have while opening? You know, am I gonna have my grand opening on the same week where there's another restaurant grand opening across town, or where another brewery is launching their first product, or anything like that? In a small town, we didn't have to worry about that. We are the only established restaurant in Quebec, and we have the only on-premise liquor license for almost 15 miles. That checked 2 more boxes right there. Not having any immediate competition. While there are other places in town to get food, we are the only sit-down full-service restaurant. That's another box checked right there. As I mentioned, I have 2 other facilities in the back, one of which I currently live in. That checks another box off of my list. I got 1 mortgage, right? I live right on site where my restaurant is, and that was a dream. Me and my dad would talk about that as we were, just dreaming 10 years ago, brainstorming. Oh well, if we could own our restaurant someday, wouldn't it be nice to be able to live upstairs or always be able to be there? So I actually do live on site here. That my residence is right behind my restaurant, 30 steps out the back door of the Reckless Roadhouse right here. That checked another box. Not only was it affordable for me to only have 1 mortgage, but I could always be here then. If anything ever came up, anything ever needed to be done, I was always able to be here. Even if I just needed to step away to have, to take a shower or whatever it was in the middle of the day, it was right there and I could be right back at work. To some, they might seem very stressful. And sure, there are plenty of days where it felt like Groundhog Day. I didn't know what day of the week it was when I woke up. I didn't know what time I was going to bed. You wake up, you're at work. You go to bed, you're at work. You wake up, you're at work. You're in work all day. You go to bed, you're at work. Let alone, I could never get away. If I was ever like, oh, I'm stepping out everybody knew where I was. I was only the 7-second walk away. There was no real escape. But for our entrepreneurs who are listening, our small business owners who might be tuning in, you guys know that's what it takes, right? When you are opening a company from the ground up, you are in it every single second of every single day, 7 days a week, 365 a year, whether you want to be or not. Even the days I would try and take off or try and take a little vacation, a staycation, whatever might have you, you don't stop thinking about your business. You never do. What might be going on? What might be happening? Do I need to be there? How are they doing it without me? How's everything going? And what fires do I need to... You never get to let go anyway. So being able to live right here on site, boom, checked another box. They say, like all the big great businesses, they all started in a garage, right? Well, if you can see right here behind me, we are filming in my restaurant. There's a big garage door here. This building at one point was a garage. Google, Facebook, Amazon, they all started in a garage. Now, I'm not comparing myself to any of those businesses, not whatsoever. But they all started in a garage. So we took that and we ran with it. We were like, well, this could be our garage concept. And if we could make it work, in a town of 500, less than 500 people, then we probably had something good, right? We probably had something that would stick and be replicatable. If it could work in a town of less than 500, you'd think that we could scale up and do it in a town that's larger. And that was part of my original business plan. When we set out, we wanted to get established in Quebec. The facility here, we have about 6,000 square feet. As I mentioned, we have 2,000 unused square feet, and that was going to be our brewery. That's where we had the room to expand right on site, right away. We could grow within our own shoes right away. That's another box checked right there. So it afforded me a lot of opportunity, and that was one of the first things I looked at. And I would offer that to all of you, entrepreneurs, small business owners. Look at opportunity within the location you're looking at starting on or starting in before you ever grow. Can you grow within the initial box that you start in without having to expand, without having to look outward? And what abilities do you have to do that? This facility here afforded us a lot of that. But with that comes that question, those struggles, those trials of, well, how do you be successful in a town that has less than 500 people who live in here? Well, I ran my numbers, folks. Like you'll hear me talk about, I'm a numbers guy. I like to say I'm a good chef. I make some good food. I have years of experience, formal training. I know how to cook, but I'm a good business guy. I like business a lot. I like to know the way that things operate. When I went to culinary school, I didn't go to learn how to cook. I've been cooking for 6-7 years professionally before ever going to culinary school. I went to culinary school for my business degree, to learn if this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, could I make a living out of it? Could I do it for myself? Could I afford so? So not only did my numbers line up in the affordability of me actually being able to own this real estate, which as we're talking to our entrepreneurs, our small business owners, that's one of the first things I look for is assets, including real estate. If that's a dream too for most of us small business owners. Can we own the real estate, the building that we're operating out of? Because then we know that we have a backbone. We have something supporting us, and that's our assets. That's our equity that will grow. That's a huge thing for me. So for me to be able to buy the property and the real estate and own my building for my first restaurant outright, boom, another box checked right there. So all of those boxes being checked is what made it worth the risk. And of course, every decision we make as entrepreneurs, as a small business, everything is a risk. It's just, what is the risk-reward ratio? What are you putting out to what are you getting back? And the opportunity for us to launch a company with minimal direct competition, being able to afford and getting started all of our own in one fell swoop was well worth the risk of, well, we're starting in a small town. So then I needed to design my business model to, what if only the town supported me? If we weren't gonna be able to draw anybody from any other town, if we didn't grow, if we didn't become popular, and all we were was a restaurant for a population of 500. And I ran 4, 5, 6 different models. What if I only had 20 people come in a day? All day, 10 for lunch, 10 for dinner. What would I need to make? Could we make it? And how many people could I afford to do or pay if I did it? What if we only had 20 people come, or that's what I just said. What if we only had 40 people come in, 20 for lunch, 20 for dinner? That ended up, ladies and gentlemen, being the number that I settled on. If I only had 40 people come in on a day, 20 for lunch, my entire lunch hours, that's 11 to 3, and then 20 people from dinner for 4 to 8. If I only had 40 people come in the days that I was open, could I make it? Would it cover what I needed to do? And after I put those numbers on to paper, my answer was yes. That's why I decided to make this move. Because I had the backbone of the equity, the assets, the real estate. That way, if worst case scenario, we went under and we failed, at least we still had something we could sell, or something that I could maybe turn into something else, right? That other opportunity within one opportunity, that's what we're gonna talk about. But also, if the worst case scenario, only 20 people to 40 people came in every single day, could I make it? The answer was yes. Now, what did I need to do to be able to make that? I needed to work by myself, right? As I mentioned already, I set out to do this with my father, with my family, and my friends, and the people that I care about, people who care about me. And my father, and my mom, who just walked in the door, by the way, and will probably, she might not like it, but we'll force her over here for a cameo in a second. We decided if the three of us, my parents both offered, they're like, well, we'll come out, we'll work full time to help me achieve my dream, but also their dream as well. This is my father's dream, it's my mom's dream to see me doing what I love, let alone, she gets her own free bar that she gets to eat and drink at every single day, So of course it's her dream too, but they said if they had to go back to working full time, come out of retirement, that they would. And then I put that then to pen and paper. And would I be able to operate with just me, my dad, and my mom running? And that's another thing too. We know as entrepreneurs, small business owners, you wear every single hat in your business, and you have to. And for me, I'm in the food and beverage, the hospitality industry. So for me, what does that mean? I have to know what it takes to be the dishwasher. I have to know what it takes to be the server, the bartender, my line cook, my prep cook, my general manager, my front of house manager, my kitchen manager. I have to know what it takes to do all of those jobs. And I don't mean this to be harsh, but if you're looking to start a business and you don't know how to work every single position in that business, you shouldn't. You should not start that business. If you don't know what it takes, however could you talk to your staff or your employees about what it takes to do their jobs? So that was another thing too. I felt confident in making this move because if I had to wash my own dishes, do all the cooking, greet my guests, be their bartender, and be their server, not only could I do it, but would it make sense for the company? In my experience, as I mentioned, I now have 18 years doing nothing but restaurants and being a chef. At my experience at the time, 14 years working every single position in a restaurant, I was very confident I could do that. If I only had 20 people come in for lunch, even if all 20 of those walked in at the same time, would I be able to manage what it took to greet them walking in the door, getting their drink orders, getting their food orders, going back, cooking the food, bringing the food out to the table, and then making sure that they were kept up throughout that whole time? I was very confident in myself to be able to do that, and I did. When we first opened, that was not the case. I opened with a business partner who I'm very thankful to have had when we opened this. Him and I ended up having a falling out, and that's a different segment we will talk about too, folks. The friends that I've lost throughout this, the friends I've gained, the experience you have working with friends and family, or how your employees and staff become friends and family. My first business partner and I were best friends, and we went in on things together, and we did have a falling out, and it's a shame. It is, and I have regrets about it, and but also I wouldn't have been, hands down, I would not have ever been able to start the business without him. His name's Brian. I would never have been able to start the business without him, and I appreciate him for everything that he did. And when we first started, it wasn't just me. It was me and him, and we had a full amount of staff. And then those were changes that I needed to make as we grew. And you'll find that out too as business owners and entrepreneurs, and as just managers in any industry. one of the toughest things you ever have to do is letting somebody go. Firing somebody, especially somebody who you've become close with or you work with every single day, you see every single day, you know their lives in and out. They might be a friend, they might be family. That's one of the worst and hardest things to do. But we have to be able to make those decisions as business owners, as entrepreneurs, because your business has to come first. While I am family oriented, community oriented, and I take care of my people first, I say this in every meeting, I said it in every introduction, every interview, that I will be business first, because my business takes care of all those people. All 30 of my employees, which we had over 45 at one point, all 30 of my employees rely on me. And if my business is not doing well, then I can't take care of any of them. So you have to be business forward first, and that might hurt some relationships. You might lose some relationships. You might lose some friends. And unfortunately, as harsh as it is, that is the cost of doing business.